No wonder the calls are growing for Prince Harry to be stripped of his HRH title and even removed from the line of succession, because there have been two major new scandals in the past 24 hours involving the Duke of Delusion. One in a British courtroom, the other.
Once upon a time, Harry and Meghan were Hollywood's golden couple. Now, they're nowhere to be seen. What happened? Well, let's just say the red carpets have been rolled up, and the velvet ropes are firmly closed. The 2025 Met Gala? The Sussexes were MIA.
Involving his second crisis-ridden American charity. And we're going to get to all of that in just a moment with our royal mastermind, Angela Levin. I have to tell you too, this Harry interview, Angela, has gone down like a cup of old sick with the public. The statistics are extraordinary. Over 1 million views on YouTube, but 10,000 likes and 38,000 dislikes. So, right, there's a lot of reason, Angela, why they wouldn't be invited to a major event like, say, the Met Gala. However, Harper's Bazaar magazine have tried to claim that Harry and Meghan chose to skip the event themselves. They say despite friends like Serena Williams and Mindy Kaling being in attendance, Duchess Meghan, I mean, how ludicrous, and Prince Harry were nowhere to be seen when the 2025 Met Gala red carpet was rolled out. The pair have never been to the annual event, and if there was ever a time for them to be on the guest list, it seemingly would have been now. It's been a few years since the couple stepped down from their position as senior royals, and they've been slowly making their way back into the spotlight, be it through reality shows like Harry and Meghan, or rare red carpet appearances at press summits and events tied to their Archewell Foundation. However, there's a couple of reasons that the pair may have opted out of the fundraiser. First of all, their eldest child, Prince Archie, is celebrating his 6th birthday tomorrow, which they likely might have missed it if they had been spending a late evening in New York City. But another reason may be that Prince Harry recently received a devastating decision in his ongoing legal battle in the UK. On and on it goes. Total propaganda. But Angela Levin, you've been told that it was none of that. They didn't skip the event. They simply were not invited alongside all the other A-listers. What do you know? What can you tell us?
Well, they just didn't invite them, so they didn't expect them to come along. So they have to find a big excuse. Even, the magazines have to come up with some sort of rubbish if they're on their side. And they said, well, they did really want to go, and they were so busy because it was going to be little Archie's birthday, and maybe they weren't feeling so well. That's why. The reason that's why they just didn't get invited, and they're not being invited increasingly in every type of public
yeah, especially the biggies, right? Not the Oscars, not the Golden Globes, not the Emmys. And it must be so painful, given that we heard that report earlier in the week, Angela, that Harry has become obsessed with looking at the footage of what's going on in the United Kingdom. Well, last night, the royals out in force again. And let's have a look at some of these pictures, Angela, because it really was. We were messaging throughout, weren't we? And it really was just such a wonderful evening. Horse Guards Parade, the big concert to celebrate VE Day, Catherine looking absolutely stunning, brilliant dynamic between her and Prince William. I mean, Harry's going to be very pained looking at these images, given he's not getting invited to this, but he's also not been invited to the Met Gala.
Their team said it was family time for Archie's birthday, but insiders, they spill a different tea. Harry and Meghan weren't even invited. Ouch. It's not just the Met, the Oscars, the Golden Globes, even the Emmys, all those star-studded invites.
Yes. Well, I think Meghan is going to be absolutely beside herself, and I'm waiting to see what sort of dress she wears to beat Catherine on that one, because that was an extraordinary, beautiful dress that fitted her so beautifully, and the ribbon that's going to be, people are going to wear that, copy that, and Charlotte likes wearing that, so the two of them look absolutely gorgeous in it. But I think, Meghan will be absolutely raving mad. I'll just say one thing about this event.
Please.
Is that there's a rose that's been made for Catherine, and when you look at her beauty, you think actually she does have that sort of quality. It's a sort of pinky orangey, not pale pink.
Oh, there it is.
That's it. It's a beautiful colour. And it's
And it
done by
matches her
the
outfit
Royal
there at Chelsea.
Horticultural Society. And really, what's happening for it is that they wanted something beautiful for her, but if the money that they can earn from that will go to the Marsden Cancer
Oh, lovely.
Hospital,
Which is
and it's going
obviously
to
so
go.
special given that both her and Charles have that real personal connection now.
Exactly. Now, anything that they get given or want to do, they want to share it with other people. They want to turn it into something that can actually do good to others. And it's going to go all around the country on some sort of extra type of training. So it will be very useful. Now, I have to say, can you ever imagine Meghan doing that? I mean, she would take the money or she would be holding on to it.
True.
You
True. They
know,
don't raise money for anyone now, Angela. It's all just commercial purposes. Angela, I do want to play you just a little bit of King Charles's speech last night
yes.
because it was very emotional. And Angela, what's so special, I think, about what's happened this week at VE Day is that Prince George has been introduced
Oh,
to official royal engagements for the first time. And this
wasn't
day
that
will mean
wonderful?
a lot to him because he was on duty with his grandfather and his father.
Yes. I mean, it's so moving that, but he seemed to really enjoy it. He has come across as being quite shy and, a bit nervous about being chatting. But I think having gone to with his father to lots of football matches, he's learnt a bit how to speak to adults. And apparently he was asking all sorts of questions, how old were you when you went to join the army, And this man of 101 said to him about 18, he said, what did you do? I mean, he was really interested, and he also asked a lot about the equipment that they use because he's fascinated by that too. And you think, what a wonderful couple that they've brought up this boy so far. They haven't pushed him, and they've encouraged him to find something that
Totally.
he'd really be interested in, and actually he can move on from
It's
that.
just been
He'll be
wonderful
so proud of
all
himself.
week, Angela. It has been wonderful. And we've seen the real purpose of the royal family and what they meant to the United Kingdom, especially during World War II. But unfortunately, Angela, we cannot deny the dark shadow that has been cast over the event by Prince Harry and that deranged
Yes.
BBC interview. It's hung over, unfortunately, all week long. And now Harry's friends speaking out. This is highly significant, isn't it? A real intervention from Ben Goldsmith, who has told the Daily Mail on the record, Angela, tragic but true, Prince Harry's behaviour is unforgivable. And
But
then,
that's what a word that is. What a word
yeah,
that is for a
exactly.
close friend.
And then other
Unforgivable.
friends, Angela, being even more scathing, but off the record, with one friend telling Richard Eden, I don't know what's more disgusting, Harry's comment about his father's health or his suggestion that people want him dead. It's very sad, but we all know that he doesn't want to hear things he disagrees with. So again, this feels like quite a seismic moment.
Gone. Hollywood's made it clear. Harry and Meghan are off the guest list. And it's not just the A-listers ghosting them. Remember Harry's big BBC interview? Over 1 million views, but the dislikes? Off the charts.
I think it is really. And I think that the fact that it happened from the BBC on that day was all planned. And so it would spoil and take something out of what was going to happen. And they didn't wait. They could have waited a week and he could have said something then, however ghastly. It couldn't have been ghastly that just before. But I think that the royal family was so dignified, and they decided that they would really enjoy it. And so they've not swallowed it, not taken much interest, but in their hearts, they must be very, very upset that he tried to spoil what they were doing at such an important week in one go.
No, I know, Angela. I know. And goodness me, scandal is just following this guy. Scandal is following this guy. So, two major news scandals, Angela, believe it or not,
Mm.
in the past 24 hours. Now, I actually want to kick off with the one that I think is by far the most shocking and for some reason has received such little coverage. And this is the African Parks charity scandal. This is one of Harry's main charities. Remember, all of the attention at the moment has been over Centre Bali and his fallout with Dr. Sophie Chandoka. But indeed, what's going on at African Parks is so terrible, so revolting. He hasn't been asked about it. Why didn't the BBC ask him about it in that interview? Because the charity itself, Angela, has now admitted that these human rights abuses have been going on. Let me just take you through the reporting from the Daily Mail, which did first break the story. Prince Harry's African charity admits human rights abuses after rainforest families said their rangers raped and beat tribes people. Prince Harry, who was the president of African Parks for 6 years until being elevated to the governing board of directors 2 years ago, so still highly involved, is said to be fully briefed on the scandal and has been involved in bringing about change to deal with the issues. The findings are another blow to the Duke of Sussex after his Centre Bali charity was engulfed by scandal when he resigned from the board and its chair Sophie Tangjoka accused him of harassment and bullying at a scale, a claim that is denied. The results of the probe carried out by London law firm Omnia Strategy has gone directly to African Parks. The charity, and remember this is Harry's statement, said the board of African Parks has reviewed Omnia's advice and endorsed the management plan and timeframes to implement the recommendations resulting from this process. African Parks acknowledges that in some incidents human rights abuses have occurred and we deeply regret the pain and suffering that these have caused to the victims. Omnia's process also highlighted several failures of our systems and processes that were insufficient for the level of responsibility given to us, particularly in the early years of our management. So, Angela Levin, this is the biggest indictment ever of this charity. Rapes, human rights abuses, beatings. Prince Harry is all at the head of this, and yet he seems to be completely getting away with it.
Friends who once had his back, like Ben Goldsmith, are calling him unforgivable. Others behind closed doors say they're just done. Why the sudden freeze-out? It's not just royal drama. Their charity world is in crisis too, rocked by scandals and rumors of mismanagement.
Yes, he's stepped down and he now thinks that it's got nothing to do with him. But he was the person who tried very hard to set it up and has been very important.
He's still on the board of directors, Angela.
I don't think he is. I think he's just got down, but I'm not entirely sure. But even if he is or if he isn't, it's his responsibility to help out. Apparently, it's also stopping them eating. It's all people who've been taking plants and taken vegetables and things that are there. They have been beaten, whacked, hit, and not allowed to even take anything from the Congo for certain. And it is absolutely terrible. And the fact that you can say, oh, well, we don't know about this or we've got to leave it now. It's not a leave it now matter. It's a do it now matter, isn't it? And the rape makes you just shiver.
Well, of course. And Angela, I mean, I'm just looking at the African Parks website. He is still a board member. So,
he is.
I mean, this is his
today,
responsibility.
But,
Well, I think what had happened, he had been elevated to the board. So he'd sort of been moved actually up into a higher position. So if you're on the board and this is going on your watch, I just think it's so terrible. I think it's so terrible. And you've got the BBC sitting down with him, and apparently we're told no questions were off limits. And they do this softball interview with him where he repeats all of these lies about the royal family and all of these lies about people wanting him dead and all of these ridiculous slurs about his family. They're all repeated, but no one actually asks, you are responsible for a charity that has actually been causing human rights abuses. What are you going to do about it? I mean, this is the problem with someone who just uses charity for their own purposes, and he has done for so many years, Angela. Now, I'm not going to criticize him in the early days before he met Meghan. You're obviously his biography. I know he was very passionate about this, right? But it feels like, tell me if you think I'm wrong, but it feels like since he's met Meghan Markle, his eyes have been off the ball when it comes to both Centre Bali and African Parks.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, beforehand, he adored Africa. He loved to go there, and he felt that this is where he would move out when he wanted to leave the royal family before Meghan and actually go and live there. And because it was felt it was more like him. He could do everything that was necessary there and make a big engagement. But I don't think Meghan was interested at all, so that went down the drain. That's a terrible, terrible trouble, isn't it? That didn't suit her. She wants to go where there's smart people, rich people, um, nothing that's really down to earth. I mean, she was very cunning because on their, I think it was their third meeting, because they keep that bit hidden, that she suggested that they went to Africa and laid under the stars. And of course, Harry thought, yes, she's the right one because she knows exactly what I really like. So that's what she did, but she's never wanted to do it again. And at one, he did want to go back and look after the animals that were not being treated properly or were dying. But she had no interest in that. And because she is so demanding and doesn't give in, he has had to listen. That's the end of that. And actually, got almost nothing left now.
The Sussex brand, once untouchable, is now radioactive. From courtrooms to controversies, Harry and Meghan's journey has gone from fairy tale to cautionary tale. Hollywood's lost its patience.
Well, I know, but I'd argue, Angela, he doesn't actually deserve to be running these charities because
No,
if
now
you are
he doesn't.
prepared to let that type of thing go on and you haven't apologized, you haven't told us what you're actually going to do, the results haven't been revealed. I mean, I think it's just shocking. But Angela, that isn't the only scandal. I mean, this is the problem. Scandal is following this man everywhere at the moment because we've got to talk about what has gone on in court. And again, this is quite technical, but let me take you through it because this is involving Prince Harry's court case against the Daily Mail, the newspaper, and I'll just read the reporting that has come from the Press Association. So they write, the publisher of the Daily Mail has asked lawyers for Prince Harry to hand over any documents relating to payments or threats made for evidence in the legal claim against the news organisation. The Duke of Sussex, along with a group of 6 others, including Liz Hurley, Sir Elton John, and his husband David Furnish, are bringing legal action against Associated Newspapers Limited. On Wednesday, Anthony White KC, who was operating for the Mail, told the High Court that the case is being brought principally as a result of information allegedly provided by third-party investigators. He asked the court in London to order the group's legal team to, quote, search for and disclose any documents that relate to payments, royalties, or inducements paid, provided, or offered, or any demands or threats made in order to obtain documents, information, or other cooperation. In a written submission, White said a limited number of documents had been disclosed which showed that payments were made or offered to procure evidence and invoices, but there is good reason to believe that incentives have been offered or paid by the research team more widely. Speaking in court, he said that one of the investigators was paid £16,000 for a series of invoices and her evidence. He added that this was buying evidence from a certain perspective and for evidence against newspapers. White also asked to be provided with documents relating to when each of the group learned of the potential unlawful information gathering. He added that not one of the claimants has disclosed a single document evidencing or referring to the information they were provided with for their watershed moments. The group's barrister, David Sherborne, now he's representing Prince Harry, told the court that any documents that were not privileged had been disclosed. But the judge, Angela Levin, clearly didn't believe that because he said, I find it remarkable. There are no documents. So look, we've got to be careful. This is an ongoing court case in the United Kingdom. And unfortunately, we're very limited in terms of what we can say. But even just looking at that discussion in court, Angela, I'm sorry, it seems to me that there is a lot more to this case than meets the eye, put it that way. And Prince Harry doesn't look like Mr. Clean.
No, I mean, I think that's a very clever sentence from the judge, Justice Nicklin. I find it remarkable there are no documents because actually, in the court, you have to deliver so that people can see what you're saying. You can't get people to give people money so that they help you find all sorts of things, but you don't have anything absolutely there in the written source. You can't expect people, like judges, to actually say, well, you've given a very good argument here, because they've got to prove it. It's got to be proven. And they obviously haven't been able to do that yet. We don't know what might happen. But the judge is like things very, very straightforward. You know, this is the document, this is what happened, this is the recording. But if you just build it up with people who've taken a lot of money and you're really keen on sorting it out that way, it doesn't work. You know, you're going to a judge and to a court. You're not discussing it at home with somebody else who you disagree with, you know. They haven't got quite the right idea. So they need to find material that is real, that you can look at, not just what you think is the right thing.
Friends are walking away, every move is making headlines, and not the good kind. So here's the real question. How long before Meghan decides Harry is more hassle than help? What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more royal revelations. This is where the royal drama gets real. Catch you in the next one.